She was mocked for her cheap dress, until the billionaire CEO said, "She's my wife." Everyone froze in shock. "Hi, my beautiful, precious and loyal family. How are you today? I'm your Mr. Peter, and I love you beyond words. My real family, my heart, my soul. You are my light, my joy, and I hold each of you so close. A beautiful prayer for you. May love wrap you warmly, happiness fill your heart, and peace follow you always. May every tear turn into laughter, every worry into faith, and every dream into reality. You are deeply loved, forever cherished, and endlessly blessed. Thank you, my precious family, for your overwhelming love and support. Your love lifts me higher every single day. Together we are rising stronger and brighter. Never forget how much your Mr. Peter loves you. Please like, comment, and share, because together we are unstoppable. Let's begin with love, my beautiful family. The kitchen of the Grand Meridian Hotel was a symphony of controlled chaos. Bella Gilmore moved through it with practiced grace, her slender fingers adjusting the garnish on the final appetizer plate with the precision of a surgeon. At 28, Bella had built a reputation as one of the city's most promising up-and-coming chefs, though few knew the steel beneath her gentle demeanor. Steel forged through years in foster care and fighting twice as hard as everyone else in the cutthroat culinary world. 5 minutes until service, she called out, her voice carrying authority despite its melodic quality. Her small catering team responded with focused efficiency. This gala, a charity auction for the city's elite, represented their biggest opportunity. Yet, one successful night could launch Bella's fledgling catering company from obscurity into the realm of serious contenders. She smoothed down the front of her simple black dress, one she'd designed and sewn herself, with clean lines that flattered her curves while maintaining professional elegance. Unlike the waitstaff in their matching uniforms, Bella would present each signature dish herself. She wanted to see the guests' reactions firsthand. "You've got this," she whispered to herself, a ritual before every event. The ballroom glittered, with crystal chandeliers and the sparkle of diamonds adorning the city's wealthiest necks. Bella pushed through the service doors with a tray of her signature appetizers, delicate pastry shells filled with spiced duck confit and topped with a tart cherry reduction. The contrast of flavors was her specialty, the unexpected combinations that lingered on the palate. Something simple for the unsophisticated palate. A woman in a red designer gown arched a perfectly sculpted eyebrow, taking in Bella's appearance before lifting one of the appetizers with manicured fingers. Bella's smile remained professional. "Actually, the flavor profile is quite complex. The spice blend includes 15 different elements that build on each other with each bite." The woman took a delicate nibble, her eyes widening slightly before she masked her reaction. "Interesting," she murmured, before turning away. Bella continued through the crowd, presenting her creations and engaging briefly with guests who recognized quality regardless of the presenter's attire. She was describing the ingredients to an elderly gentleman when she felt it, a prickling awareness that raised the fine hairs on her neck. Someone was watching her. She turned slowly, her gaze drawn across the room as if pulled by an invisible thread. Near the large windows overlooking the city lights stood a man who seemed somehow separate from the preening crowd. Tall, with broad shoulders encased in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, he had skin the color of burnished gold and features that belonged on a classical statue, all sharp angles and perfect proportions. But it was his eyes that caught her. Intense, intelligent and fixed directly on her, with an expression of unexpected interest. For one suspended moment, they stared at each other across the crowded room. Bella felt heat rise to her cheeks, a physical reaction she couldn't control. The connection snapped when a waiter bumped into her, nearly upending her tray. "I'm so sorry, chef," the young server gasped. Bella steadied the tray with practiced hands. No harm done, Marcus. Be a bit more careful, though. We can't afford to waste these. When she looked back, the striking man was gone, swallowed by the crowd of glittering guests. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of service and presentation. Bella's creations were met with appreciative murmurs, and several guests requested her business card, early signs of the night's success. As the main course wound down, she slipped away to check on dessert preparations. The hotel's service elevator was tucked discreetly in an alcove away from guest areas. Bella pressed the call button, mentally reviewing the dessert presentation. The doors slid open to reveal the same man she'd locked eyes with earlier, now alone in the elevator. Up close, he was even more devastating. His cologne, subtle notes of sandalwood and something uniquely his own, wrapped around her as she hesitated at the threshold. Going down? His voice was deep with a slight rasp that sent an unexpected shiver along her spine. Yes, she managed, stepping into the elevator. Kitchen level. He nodded, making no move to press any button since the kitchen was already selected. The doors closed with a soft hush, sealing them in the small space together. Your appetizers were exceptional, he said after a moment. The duck confit with cherry. It was like discovering a flavor I've been searching for without realizing. Its surprise flickered across Bella's face. You could taste all that from one bite? A smile played at the corners of his mouth. I pay attention to things that matter. The way his eyes moved over her face made Bella acutely aware of every inch of her skin. She was accustomed to being invisible to men like him, men whose watches probably cost more than her annual rent. I'm Cam, he said, extending his hand. No last name, she noticed. Bella Gilmore. Her hand met his, and the contact sent a jolt of awareness straight to her core. His palm was warm, the grip firm but not overpowering. The elevator lurched, suddenly, the lights flickering before plunging them into darkness. The abrupt stop knocked Bella off balance, sending her directly against his chest. His arms came around her instinctively, steadying her. Are you okay? His voice came closer to her ear in the darkness. Yes, she whispered, acutely aware of the solid wall of his chest against her palms, the strength in the arms that held her. She should step back, create distance, but her body refused to move. The emergency lights kicked on, casting the elevator in a dim, amber glow that softened every edge and created shadows where there had been none. They stood there, neither pulling. Away, caught in a moment outside of time, I should probably... Bella began, but the words died as his gaze dropped to her lips. Probably, he agreed, not releasing her. The air between them grew charged, heavy with unspoken possibility. Bella had never experienced such an immediate visceral reaction to anyone. Her heart hammered against her ribs, and she knew he must feel it where their bodies pressed together. This is crazy, she whispered. I don't know you, but you want to. He murmured, his certainty both arrogant and disarming because she couldn't deny the truth of it. When his head lowered toward hers, Bella knew she should turn away. Instead, she tilted her face up in silent invitation. Their lips met in a kiss that started gentle but quickly blazed into something urgent and consuming. One hand slid up her back, while the other cradled her neck as he deepened the kiss, tasting her with a thoroughness that made her knees weaken. Bella's fingers curled into the lapels of his jacket, pulling him closer as the kiss obliterated every rational thought. There was only sensation, the heat of his mouth, the strength in the body pressed against hers, the intoxicating taste of him that hinted at depths she suddenly, desperately wanted to explore. The elevator jerked back to life, with a mechanical groan, breaking them apart just as the kiss threatened to consume them completely. They stared at each other in the dim light, both breathing hard, the air between them electric with stunned awareness. The doors slid open at the kitchen level, revealing a maintenance worker and hotel manager. So sorry for the inconvenience. Sir, the manager said, addressing Cam with deference that suggested he recognized him. The backup generator kicked in, but we're checking all elevators personally. No inconvenience, Cam replied, his voice remarkably steady, despite the heat still evident in his eyes as they remained fixed on Bella. Quite the opposite. Security personnel appeared behind the manager. Sir, Mr. Reynolds is asking for you. Upstairs, something like regret flashed across Cam's features. I have to go, he said quietly to Bella, but this isn't over. Before she could respond, he was being ushered away, leaving Bella standing in the elevator doorway, fingers pressed to lips that still burned from his kiss, wondering what hurricane she had just encountered and why she already craved its return. Chapter 2. Irresistible Pursuit. Bella couldn't concentrate. 3 days had passed since the gala, and the memory of that elevator kiss still burned through her at unexpected moments. She'd catch herself touching her lips, remembering the taste of him. Earth to Bella. Zoe waved a hand in front of her face. That's the second time you've added salt instead of sugar. Who is he? Who's who? Bella turned away, busying herself with order forms. The man who's got you walking into walls for 3 days straight. Bella sighed. It's nothing. Just some guy at the Meridian Gala. We got stuck in an elevator, we kissed, and then he disappeared. You kissed a stranger in an elevator. Zoe's eyes widened. You, the woman who made that investment banker fill out a questionnaire before agreeing to coffee? The office door swung open, and Maya appeared holding an enormous arrangement of orchids. Delivery for you, chef, Maya announced. And before you ask, yes, I checked for a card. Inside was a note with elegant handwriting. The taste of you lingers longer than any flavor I've ever encountered. Dinner tonight? I'll be waiting at Lumini at 8. Cam heat rushed to Bella's face as Zoe snatched the card. The taste of you lingers, Zoe read aloud. Elevator guy has game. I'm not going, Bella insisted, though her body disagreed. Her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. In case flowers aren't enough persuasion, one dinner. What are you afraid of? I'm not afraid, she muttered. Later that evening, standing outside Lumine in a deep purple dress, Bella tried to quiet her doubts. She never did this. Meet strange men, no matter how handsome. Growing up in foster care had taught her caution. Building her business had required a focus that left little room for romance. Yet here she was. The maitre d' led her through the dimly lit restaurant to a secluded corner booth. And there he was, standing as she approached, even more devastating in dark jeans and a charcoal cashmere sweater that emphasized his broad shoulders. His eyes, a warm amber that caught the candlelight, traveled slowly from her face down her body before returning to meet her gaze, sending heat pooling low in her belly. You came. His voice held pleased surprise. I was curious, she admitted, and slightly concerned about how you got my phone number. He smiled, the expression transforming his serious face. I asked the event coordinator for the contact information of the catering company for feedback purposes. That's borderline stalking, Bella said, though she couldn't muster proper indignation. That's resourcefulness, he countered. Though I admit I wasn't sure you'd come. The sommelier appeared with wine that Cam must have pre-selected. Bella watched as he tasted it with practiced confidence. Tell me something, she said after the sommelier departed. Why go to all this trouble for a woman you met once in an elevator? He considered her over the rim of his glass. Because in 36 years, I've never experienced anything like what happened in that elevator. His directness was disarming. Have you? Bella took a sip of wine. No, she admitted. I haven't. Satisfaction flickered across his expression. Then we owe it to ourselves to explore it further. Dinner progressed through exquisite courses, their conversation flowing naturally. Cam asked thoughtful questions about her business, listened with genuine interest to her culinary philosophy. Bella found herself sharing stories of her apprenticeship in Paris, the challenges of launching her business as a woman of color. "You've overcome a lot," he observed admiringly. "That takes a special kind of strength." "Necessity," she corrected. "When there's no safety net, failure isn't an option." Something flickered in his eyes, recognition perhaps. "I understand that better than you might think." As they left the restaurant, the night air cool against her skin, Bella knew she should call a cab, go home. Instead, she found herself accepting his suggestion of a walk along the nearby waterfront. When his hand brushed hers, the contact sent electricity racing up her arm. The third time it happened, his fingers interlaced with hers, warm and secure. "I don't usually do this," she said quietly. "What? Hold hands?" "Any of it. The elevator, this dinner, walking with a man I barely know at night." He stopped, turning to face her. "Do you feel unsafe with me?" "That's the problem," she admitted. "I feel too safe, too comfortable. It doesn't make sense." He stepped closer, his free hand coming up to trace her jaw. "Some things defy explanation, Bella." When he kissed her, it wasn't the desperate heat of their first encounter, but something deeper, more deliberate. He explored her mouth with thorough attention, as if memorizing her. Bella's hands slid up his chest to curl around his neck, drawing him closer as the kiss deepened. She was breathless when they finally parted. His eyes had darkened with desire, his breathing unsteady as he pressed his forehead against hers. "Come home with me," he said softly, the words both question and plea. Every lesson in caution Bella had ever learned screamed at her to say no. But the chemistry between them had built throughout the evening into something almost unbearable. "Yes," she whispered against his lips, feeling his smile before she saw it. His penthouse occupied the top floor of a sleek high-rise overlooking the park. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the glittering cityscape, but Bella hardly noticed the multi-million-dollar view. Her attention remained fixed on Cam as he moved with casual confidence, opening wine. "This doesn't match what you told me about yourself," she observed. "Investment analysts don't usually live in penthouses like this." Something guarded flickered across his features. "I've been fortunate in my investments." She turned in his arms. "I'm not, though. Yours. Not like a possession." "Poor choice of words," he acknowledged. "I'm yours, more accurately, have been since that elevator." Their clothes created a trail to his bedroom, her dress pooling at her feet as he knelt to pay homage to each newly revealed inch of skin, his sweater tossed aside as her eager hands explored the sculpted muscles of his chest and shoulders. By the time they reached his bed, they were down to undergarments, their bodies feverish with need. Cam laid her gently on the cool sheets, his gaze traveling the length of her body with such raw appreciation that Bella felt worshipped rather than exposed. "You are so beautiful," he whispered, voice rough with desire as he joined her on the bed. "I've thought of nothing else since that elevator." His hands and mouth explored her with dedicated attention, learning every curve, every sensitive spot. That made her gasp or arch against him. When he finally covered her body with his own, Bella was trembling with need. Their coming together was explosive, intense beyond anything Bella had experienced before. The physical connection awakened something, deeper, more profound than mere pleasure. As they moved together, finding a rhythm that built toward release, Bella found herself meeting his gaze, unable to look away from the raw emotion reflected there. Wonder, hunger, and something that frightened her with its intensity. Later, as moonlight spilled across the rumpled sheets, Bella lay in the circle of Cam's arms, her head resting on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "Stay," he murmured into her hair, his voice rough with satisfied desire. "Stay until morning." The request was weighted with implication. Staying meant this wasn't just a one-night encounter, that whatever this thing between them was, It would continue. She should make an excuse, slip away, protect herself. Instead, she pressed a kiss to his chest, directly over his heart. "Okay," she whispered, feeling his arms tighten around her, but as dawn filtered through the windows, doubt crept in. What was she doing? This man, this world, none of it belonged. In her carefully constructed life, she slipped from the bed while Cam slept, quickly gathering her scattered clothing. She paused at the bedside, taking in his sleeping form before scribbling a note on hotel stationery. "I don't do relationships. Last night was incredible, but let's leave it as a perfect memory." She placed it on her pillow and slipped out, closing the door quietly behind her, trying to ignore the hollow feeling in her chest. What she didn't know was that Carmel Wilson was already awake, watching through barely opened eyes as she fled, his jaw tightening with determination. He had found something he hadn't known he was searching for, and he had no intention of letting her disappear from his life. Not when he'd only just found her. Chapter 3. Surrender. Bella was elbow-deep in preparation for a corporate lunch when Maya appeared in the kitchen doorway, her expression a mixture of amusement and curiosity. "There's a delivery for you. Again." For 5 days straight, something had arrived at Bella's office. First exotic flowers, then a rare culinary book she'd once mentioned during dinner, followed by a handwritten note detailing everything he'd enjoyed about their night together in language that made her blush to her roots. Today's delivery sat on her desk, a wooden crate filled with imported spices, each one rare and expensive. "That man is persistent," Zoe observed, inspecting the Ceylon cinnamon sticks that cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. Bella tried to maintain her resolve, even as her heartbeat quickened. "He'll give up eventually." Her phone chimed, with a text she knew was from him before she even looked. "Do you think I've forgotten the taste of your skin, the sound you make when you come? I haven't. I won't. See you at 7. Heat flooded her body, pooling low in her belly. Before she could formulate a response, another text arrived with her home address, an address she definitely hadn't given him. "Your doorman's name is Luis. He enjoys Cuban cigars and has a weakness for cronuts. In case you were wondering how I got your address." The audacity stole her breath. She typed furiously, "Stalking is illegal in all 50 states. His response came instantly. "Is it stalking when you want to see me as badly as I want to see you?" Bella set the phone down as if it had burned her, because the most infuriating part was that he was right. For 5 days, she'd tried to forget the feel of his hands on her body, the intensity in his eyes as he moved inside her. For 5 nights, she'd woken gasping from dreams where he finished what he'd started in that elevator. When her doorbell rang at exactly 7 p.m., Bella opened it with every intention of sending him away. Instead, she froze at the sight of him in dark jeans and a simple grey t-shirt that showcased the muscular arms she remembered wrapped around her. The casual attire made him look younger, more approachable, yet no less devastating. But it was what he carried that truly disarmed her. Grocery bags. "What is this?" she asked, not stepping aside to let him in. "Dinner." He held up the bags. "You mentioned that before becoming a chef, you wanted to be a pastry specialist focused on chocolate, so I thought we'd make chocolate soufflés." The thoughtfulness of remembering that small detail from their conversation caught her off guard. "I never said you could come over." "You never said I couldn't." His confidence should have annoyed her. Instead, she found herself stepping back to let him in, telling herself it was only curiosity about what else he remembered. Her apartment was modest compared to his penthouse. One bedroom in a converted industrial building, with exposed brick and large windows. Her kitchen, however, was a chef's dream, occupying nearly half the open space. Cam moved through it with surprising competence, unpacking ingredients of impeccable quality. "You cook?" Bella couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice as she watched him locate her cutting board without having to ask. I lived alone for many years before I could afford a personal chef. Something vulnerable flickered across his face so quickly she almost missed it. Some skills you don't forget. Working beside him in the kitchen created an unexpected intimacy. Their hands brushed as they passed utensils. Their bodies moved in unconscious synchronization. When he stood behind her to demonstrate his technique for tempering chocolate, his chest pressed against her back, his breath warm against her neck. "You're doing this on purpose," she accused, her voice unsteady as his hands guided hers through the silky chocolate. "Cooking!" His lips brushed the sensitive shell of her ear as he spoke, sending shivers down her spine. "Or seducing you?" "Because yes to both." She turned in his arms, intending to create distance. Instead, she found herself captured by the naked desire in his eyes, a hunger that mirrored the ache building within her. Why me? The question had haunted her for days. You could have any woman in the city. His expression turned serious. "I've had relationships based on mutual convenience, social status, even affection, but I've never felt what I felt in that elevator with you." His thumb traced her lower lip. "I've never wanted anyone the way I want you, not just physically, though God knows that's unprecedented too, but all of you. Your fire, your frankness, your refusal to be impressed by the things that usually work." The raw honesty in his voice dismantled her defenses. When his lips met hers, Bella surrendered to what she'd been fighting for days, her arms twining around his neck as the kiss deepened into something desperate and consuming. They never made it to the soufflés. Instead, they christened her kitchen counter, her dining table, and finally her bed, in a night that left them both breathless and spent. Afterward, as they lay tangled in her sheets, Bella traced the defined musculature of his abdomen, marveling at the contrast of their skin tones in the dim light. "Tell me something real," she murmured, "something you don't tell everyone." He was quiet so long she thought he might have fallen asleep. When he finally spoke, his voice held none of its usual confidence. "I grew up poor," he said quietly. "Not just struggling middle class, but the kind of poverty where you wear the same clothes until they fall apart, where dinner is whatever's cheapest at the corner store." His fingers played absently with one of her curls. "My mother worked 3 jobs after my father left. She died when I was 16. Bella propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face. "What happened then?" "Foster care." The words hung between them. "Until I aged out at 18. The revelation stunned her. "You were in the system?" 4 homes in 2 years. His jaw tightened. "None of them particularly pleasant." Understanding dawned. "That's why you sensed it in me." He nodded. "Survivors recognize each other." Bella laid her palm over his heart, feeling its steady beat. "What did you mean at dinner about being in investments, after aging out?" "I worked construction during the day, took night classes, got a scholarship." His voice held no self-pity, just matter-of-fact recounting. "Got into finance, made some lucky calls, worked harder than anyone else." He didn't mention the billions, the corporate takeovers, the ruthless reputation that had earned him the nickname the Executioner in business circles. In that moment, lying in Bella's bed, he was simply Cam, the boy who had survived, the man who had built himself from nothing. "I've accomplished everything I set out to do," he continued, his voice softening as his fingers traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "Built the empire, secured the fortune, proved everyone wrong." A hollow note entered his voice. "And none of it means anything. None of it fills the emptiness." The confession held such vulnerability that Bella felt her own walls crumbling. "I understand that," she whispered. "The emptiness." He gently tilted her face up to his. "Not with you," he said softly. "For the first time in my life, I don't feel it when I'm with you." The words terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Before she could respond, his mouth found hers again, the kiss deep and searching, as if he could imprint himself on her soul. This time, when they came together, it wasn't with the urgent desire of their previous encounters, but with a tenderness that brought tears to Bella's eyes. Dawn found them still entwined, neither willing to break the connection that had formed between them. As sunlight filtered through her blinds, Bella knew she had crossed a line from which there was no return. Whatever this was between them, it had ceased to be casual the moment she let him into her home, into the carefully guarded sanctuary of her life. "I have a meeting I can't miss," he murmured regretfully, pressing a kiss to her forehead, "but I want to see you tonight." Later, after he had gone, Bella stood in her kitchen surrounded by the ingredients for soufflés they never made. Her body pleasantly sore from a night of lovemaking that had transcended the physical. She knew she should be panicking, erecting the barriers that had protected her for so long. Instead, she found herself smiling as she reached for her phone to text him back. "Tonight, my place. We'll actually cook this time." His response made her laugh out loud. No promises. Over the next weeks, they fell into a rhythm that felt both exciting and comfortable. Nights spent exploring each other's bodies and minds, mornings sharing coffee before reluctantly parting for work. Cam never stayed at his penthouse anymore, seemingly content in her modest apartment, his expensive suits now sharing space with her chef whites in her closet. Bella found herself opening up about her own past. The series of foster homes, the high school teacher who recognized her talent and helped her apply for culinary school, the years of working double shifts to save for her business. He listened with an intensity that made her feel truly seen, offering neither pity nor platitudes, just understanding. What he didn't offer was his last name, his business card, or any concrete details about his company. Whenever she probed about his work, he deflected with vague comments about investments and acquisitions. Bella told herself it didn't matter, that what they shared transcended job titles and bank accounts, until the night she accepted the catering job that would change everything. Chapter 4. Betrayal. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, an urgent request to replace a caterer who had backed out of a high-profile charity gala at the last minute. The client was offering triple Bella's usual rate, with a promise of exposure to the city's elite. It was the kind of opportunity that could elevate her small company to the next level. "You have to take it," Zoe insisted, eyes wide at the mentioned figure. "This could be our break." Bella studied the contract. "Wilson Enterprises' annual charity auction for children's education," she read aloud. "Why does that name sound familiar?" "Because they're only one of the largest investment firms in the country," Zoe said, scrolling through her phone. "Their CEO is some reclusive billionaire genius, hardly ever gives interviews or appears in public." Bella shrugged. The name tickled something in her memory, but she couldn't place it. "Confirm it," she told Zoe. "We'll need to work around the clock, but we can pull it off." She texted Cam that night. "Rain check on dinner tomorrow. Emergency catering job came up." His response was unusually terse. "No problem. Good luck." For 2 days, Bella threw herself into preparations, barely sleeping as she perfected the menu for what would be her company's most prestigious event to date. When Cam called, she let it go to voicemail, too consumed with work to talk. It was the first time they'd gone more than a day without seeing each other since their relationship began. The night of the gala, Bella arrived early to the gleaming downtown skyscraper that housed Wilson Enterprises. The event was being held in the company's private reception hall, a stunning space with soaring ceilings and views that made even Bella, a native New Yorker, pause in appreciation. "You must be the chef," a polished woman with a clipboard approached. "I'm Diane, the event coordinator. The kitchen is this way." As they walked, Diane efficiently briefed her on the evening's schedule. Mr. Wilson is very particular about his events. Everything must be perfect. It will be, Bella assured her, though privately she wondered what kind of man inspired such nervousness in his staff. The kitchen was a wonderland of state-of-the-art equipment. Bella's team worked with practiced efficiency, preparing for service, while she supervised every detail. She had chosen to wear one of her own designs for the event, a simple black dress with subtle structural elements that flattered her curves while remaining professional. A twisted rope of pearls, her mother's, the only thing she had left of her, adorned her neck. With 30 minutes until service, Bella slipped out to survey the reception hall, now filled with guests in formal wear that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She was studying the flow of the room when she heard them, a cluster of women. Near the bar, their voices carrying just enough for her to hear. "Is that the caterer?" One of them, a blonde in a designer red gown, stared openly at Bella. "What is she wearing?" "Some off-the-rack thing, I suppose," another replied with a dismissive wave. "You can't expect everyone to have taste." "Or money," added a third, triggering tittering laughter. Bella felt the familiar burn of humiliation and anger. She had faced this her entire life, judgment based on appearance, assumptions about her worth tied to the price tag of her clothing. Usually, she let it roll off her, but tonight, with the pressure of the event and her exhaustion, the words stung more than they should. She retreated to a service corridor, needing a moment to compose herself before facing her team. Leaning against the wall, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Ladies and gentlemen," a voice announced over the PA system, "please welcome our host for the evening, the CEO of Wilson Enterprises, Mr. Carmel Wilson." Bella's eyes flew open. Something about the name. Applause erupted as a figure took the stage, and Bella's world tilted on its axis. There, dressed in an impeccable tuxedo, stood Cam, her Cam, smiling confidently at the crowd. "Thank you all for coming tonight," he was saying, his familiar voice now carrying the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to command. "Wilson Enterprises is proud to host our annual charity auction for children's education." Bella couldn't breathe. Cam wasn't just some investment analyst. He was Carmel Wilson, the reclusive billionaire CEO of a global empire. The man who had been lying to her for weeks, as if sensing her presence, his gaze swept the room and locked with hers. For a split second, shock registered on his face before he recovered, continuing his speech without missing a beat. But Bella had seen it, the flash of panic, the realization that his careful deception had unraveled. She backed away, retreating to the kitchen on unsteady legs. Her team looked up expectantly, waiting for direction, unaware that their chef's world had just imploded. "Begin service," she managed, her professional training taking over despite the chaos in her mind. For the next hour, she moved through her duties in a daze, avoiding the main hall where she might see him again. It didn't work. "Chef Gilmore," his voice low and urgent, came from behind her as she inspected a tray of desserts. "Bella, please, let me explain." She turned slowly, taking in the sight of him in his perfect tuxedo, every inch the billionaire CEO. How had she not seen it? The penthouse, the casual mentions of investments, the way doors opened for him everywhere they went. "Explain what?" Her voice was eerily calm. "That you've been lying to me since the moment we met? That you created this entire fiction about who you are?" "Not a fiction," he protested, stepping closer. "Everything I told you about my past, about my feelings, it's all true. Except the part where you're Carmel Wilson, billionaire CEO, not Cam, the investment analyst." Bella's laugh held no humor. "A minor detail," his jaw tightened. "Would you have given me a chance if you'd known who I was from the start? Or would you have assumed I was like every other rich asshole who sees women as acquisitions?" The accusation hit uncomfortably close to the truth. Bella had long ago learned to avoid men with money and power. They inevitably saw her as a novelty, an exotic adventure before returning to women from their own world. "That wasn't your decision to make," she said finally. "You took away my choice. I wanted you to know me," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "The real me, not the persona, not the bank account. For once in my life, I wanted someone to want me for myself." Before she could respond, the kitchen door opened and Diane appeared. "Mr. Wilson, the auction is about to begin. They're waiting. For you." He didn't move, his eyes still locked on Bella's. "I'll be right there." When they were alone again, Bella shook her head. "You need to go. You have a gala to host and I have a job to finish." "Bella, please." "Go!" The word came out sharper than she intended. Something shifted in his expression, a hardening, a retreat behind walls she hadn't seen since their first meeting. With a curt nod, he turned and left. Bella made it through the rest of the evening, on autopilot, directing her team with mechanical precision, avoiding the main hall where he continued to play host. As the event wound down and guests began to depart, she oversaw the cleanup, determined to leave before having to face him again. She had just signed off on the final arrangements when a security guard approached. "Miss Gilmore, Mr. Wilson requests your presence in his office." "Tell Mr. Wilson I've finished my contracted duties," she replied coldly. The guard looked uncomfortable. He was very insistent. Part of her wanted to refuse, to walk out, and never look back. But another part, the part that had woken in his arms, that had shared whispered confidences in the dark, needed closure. Fine. The elevator required a key card to access the executive floor. As they ascended, Bella's reflection in the polished doors showed a woman she barely recognized, composed on the surface, but with eyes that revealed the storm within. Carmel's office occupied the corner of the top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the city he effectively owned. He stood with his back to the door, jacket removed, shoulders tense beneath his white shirt. "You can go," he told the guard without turning around. When the door closed, leaving them alone, the silence stretched between them like a living thing. "Your team did an excellent job tonight," he said finally, still facing the window. "I've authorized a bonus for all of them." "I don't want your money." He turned then, and the raw emotion on his face nearly undid her resolve. "What do you want, Bella?" "The truth. All of it. No more convenient omissions." He gestured to a seating area, but she remained standing, unwilling to prolong this any more than necessary. With a sigh, he leaned against his desk. "My name is Carmel Wilson. I'm the CEO and majority owner of Wilson Enterprises." The words came out flat, rehearsed. "Everything else I told you was true. My mother died when I was 16. I was in foster care. I worked construction and took night classes. And then I got a break with a small investment firm, worked my way up, made some key investments that paid off, started my own company, built it into what it is today." His jaw tightened. "But none of that matters because all anyone sees is the money, the power. No one sees me." "I saw you," Bella whispered, hating the tears that threatened. "And you repaid me with lies. I never meant for it to go this far." He pushed away from the desk, closing the distance between them. "That first night in the elevator, I was just Cam. Not the CEO, not the billionaire, just a man captivated by an extraordinary woman." His voice softened. "And then I couldn't figure out how to tell you without losing you. So, instead, you let me find out like this?" She gestured around the opulent office. "Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? To realize everyone in that room probably knew who you were, except me." "I was going to tell you," he insisted. "Tonight, actually. That's why I was distant when you said you were working. I knew which event you were catering." Bella laughed bitterly. "How convenient that you found your courage, just as I was about to discover the truth anyway." His expression hardened. "You're right, I was a coward." I should have told you from the start." He ran a hand through his hair, disheveling the perfect CEO image. "But can you honestly say you would have given me a chance if you'd known?" The question hung between them, uncomfortably accurate. "That's not the point," she said finally. "The point is, you took away my choice. You made me fall for a lie." "Not a lie," he said fiercely, stepping closer. "I am the same man who held you through the night, the same man who told you things I've never told another soul." His voice dropped. "The same man who has been falling in love with you since the moment you looked at me in that elevator." The word sent a shock through her system. Neither of them had used that word before. "Love." "Don't," she whispered, backing away. "Don't say things you don't mean." In 2 strides he was before her, his hands grasping her upper arms. "I have never meant anything more in my life. I love you, Bella. Not because you're beautiful, though God knows you are. Not because you're talented or strong or any of the million things that make you extraordinary. I love you because when I'm with you, I'm not Carmel Wilson, billionaire CEO. I'm just a man who's finally found where he belongs." The raw emotion in his voice shook her resolve. When his mouth descended on hers, she should have pulled away. Instead, she found herself responding with all the confusion and hurt and desire that warred within her. The kiss deepened into something desperate and consuming, his hands tangling in her hair as hers clutched at his shirt. With a groan, he lifted her, setting her on the edge of his desk, papers scattering to the floor as he moved between her legs. Bella knew she should stop this, that sex would only complicate an already impossible situation. But as his lips traced the sensitive skin of her neck, his hands sliding beneath her dress, rational thought fled. Their lovemaking was different this time, fierce, almost angry, each touch a statement, each kiss a question neither could answer. When release finally came, it left Bella trembling in his arms, tears she couldn't suppress sliding down her cheeks. Carmel held her close, his breath ragged against her hair. "Stay," he whispered, "stay with me. Let me show you who I really am. All of me this time." The plea broke through the last of her defenses. Gently, she pushed him back, straightening her dress. With trembling hands, "I can't," she said softly. "I need time, space." Pain flashed across his face, quickly masked behind the practiced control of a man accustomed to hiding vulnerability. "How much time?" "I don't know." She slid off the desk, gathering her dignity. Around her like armor. "I don't know if there's any coming back from this." He nodded once, jaw tight. "I understand." She nearly broke at the resignation in his voice, the way he stepped back to let her pass. At the door, she paused, unable to leave without one last look at the man who had simultaneously awakened and shattered her heart. "You know what the worst part is?" she said quietly, voice thick with emotion. "I would have fallen for you anyway, the real you, if you had just given me the chance." Before he could respond, she slipped out, closing the door firmly behind her. It wasn't until she was in the taxi heading home that she allowed herself to break down, sobs racking her body as the city lights blurred through her tears. In his office, Carmel Wilson stood motionless, staring at the door through which Bella had disappeared. Then, with a roar of frustration, he swept everything from his desk, watching as pens and papers and awards clattered to the floor. He had finally found the one thing his billions couldn't buy, and lost it because of his own fear. Chapter 5. Fighting Fate. For a week, Bella managed to avoid all contact with Carmel. She blocked his number, returned the extravagant flower arrangements that appeared at her door, and instructed her doorman to refuse his entry. The payment for the Wilson Gala arrived. Triple the agreed amount, which she promptly donated to a foster youth culinary program, refusing to profit from what felt like emotional deception. "You're punishing yourself more than him," Zoe observed, watching Bella mechanically prep ingredients. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, evidence of sleepless nights spent replaying every moment with Carmel. "I'm not punishing anyone," Bella insisted. the knife in her hand, moving with perhaps more force than necessary. "I'm moving on." But moving on proved impossible when her phone rang with a call from Mercy Hospital. Her foster sister, Tasha, had been rushed to the emergency room with acute appendicitis. "We need to operate immediately," the doctor explained when Bella arrived. Only later, as Tasha slept in recovery, did the financial reality hit. Tasha had no insurance. Her job at the daycare center didn't provide benefits. The hospital administrator's expression was sympathetic but firm as she outlined the costs. Bella thought of her business account, already stretched thin. It wasn't enough. Back at her office, she scrolled through pending job offers, looking for anything that might generate quick cash. One name stood out: Vincenzo Moretti, owner of Club Noir, a high-end establishment with rumored mob connections. "Mr. Moretti, this is Bella Gilmore. I understand you're still looking for a caterer for your anniversary event." His voice oozed satisfaction. "Indeed, Miss Gilmore, though my offer expires tonight." "I'll take it." The fee was substantial, enough to cover a significant portion of Tasha's medical bills. Bella pushed away her unease. One night, one job. She could handle anything for her sister. Club Noir occupied a former warehouse in a questionable part of town. As Bella's team unloaded supplies, she noted the sleek cars arriving, the silent men in dark suits who seemed more like security than guests. "You didn't tell me this was a mob thing," Maya whispered, eyes wide. "It's just catering," Bella assured her, though she wasn't convinced. Vincenzo Moretti, a stocky man with slicked-back silver hair, greeted Bella with two familiar hands on her shoulders. "The chef arrives," he announced. "Beautiful and talented, perfect." The evening progressed smoothly until Bella heard a commotion near the entrance. "You can't go in there," Moretti's voice raised in alarm. "Watch me." Bella froze, recognizing that voice instantly. Carmel stalked into the main room, his tall frame imposing in a perfectly tailored suit. His expression, when he spotted her, cycled rapidly from relief to anger. "What are you doing here?" Bella hissed, aware of the attention they were attracting. "Saving you from making a terrible mistake." He grasped her elbow. "Do you have any idea who these people are?" Before she could respond, Moretti appeared, flanked by two bulky men whose jackets couldn't quite conceal their weapons. "Mr. Wilson." Moretti's smile didn't reach his eyes. "What an unexpected pleasure." "Moretti." Carmel's tone was ice. "I didn't realize you'd expanded into the restaurant business. Just a private celebration." Moretti's gaze shifted between them. "You know our chef?" "She's with me," Carmel stated, his hand possessively at the small of Bella's back. "A contract with a man who launders money through this club and traffics women through the back rooms," Carmel murmured, barely audible. "Trust me, just this once." The certainty in his voice made her hesitate. Something in Moretti's demeanor had shifted, his earlier oily charm replaced with something menacing. A thin man with cold eyes approached. "Problem, Vincenzo?" "No problem, Mr. Petrov." Moretti's smile was strained. "Just a minor business disagreement." Petrov studied Carmel with narrowed eyes. "Wilson, the businessman who plays hero." His gaze shifted to Bella. "And his woman, yes?" "We were just leaving," Carmel said smoothly. "No." Petrov's smile was chilling. "You stay. We drink. Celebrate." It wasn't a request. Bella felt Carmel's hand tighten on her waist. "Of course," he agreed, though his body had tensed. "Though, Ms. Gilmore needs to check on the kitchen first." In the kitchen, Bella instructed her team to pack up and leave immediately. She needed to retrieve her phone from Moretti's office. The hallway was deserted as she slipped inside, grabbing her coat. As she turned to leave, Moretti's computer caught her eye, a spreadsheet listing names, dates, and astronomical figures. Without thinking, she snapped a photo. "Curious, aren't we?" Moretti stood in the doorway, expression twisted with anger. Carmel Wilson's whore, spying for him. I'm not his—" The words died as Moretti slapped her, the force snapping her head. "To the side! Search her!" he ordered the guard behind him. Rough hands grabbed her arms. Bella fought, driving her knee upward into the guard's groin. He doubled over with a howl. Moretti lunged for her, but Bella ducked under his arm and bolted for the door. She raced down the hallway, hearing shouts behind her. The main room was chaos, glasses shattered, women screaming. In the center stood Carmel, blood streaming from a cut above his eye, fists raised against two of Moretti's men. Their eyes met across the room, a moment of connection that froze time. Then Petrov's voice cut through the din. "Enough!" The European motioned, and his men drew weapons. "This disappoints me, Vincenzo." Moretti appeared behind Bella, gripping her arm painfully. This bitch was spying, taking photos. Petrov's cold eyes assessed her. "Delete them," Bella swallowed. "And then you'll let us go?" A thin smile. "Perhaps." She knew it was a lie. Across the room, Carmel gave an imperceptible shake of his head. "The photos are already uploaded to cloud storage," he called out. "And I have a security team outside who will enter if we don't exit in the next 2 minutes. Bluff or truth?" Bella couldn't tell, but Petrov hesitated, glancing toward the windows. "Check the street," he ordered one of his men. The man whispered something in Petrov's ear after returning. The European's expression soured. "Let them go," he ordered after a moment. "This place is compromised now." The grip on Bella's arm loosened. She moved immediately to Carmel's side, noting how he swayed slightly, one arm wrapped protectively around his ribs. "Walk, don't run," he murmured as they moved toward the exit. "Don't look back." The night air hit Bella's face as they emerged. Carmel's sleek black car idled at the curb, driver standing alert beside it. "Are you hurt?" And Carmel asked once they were inside, his eyes scanning her face, lingering on the red mark from Moretti's slap. "I'll live." His smile was grim, though my ribs might disagree. As adrenaline began to fade, anger took its place. "What were you thinking?" she demanded. "You could have been killed." "Me?" His eyebrows shot up. "You're the one who took a job catering for the Russian mob." "I didn't know." "Bullshit." His voice hardened. "You knew exactly who Moretti was. That's why you turned him down twice before." Bella stared at him. "How do you know that?" "I might have looked into your client list when we first met." "Unbelievable." She turned away. "Your stalking habits just keep getting creepier. Says the woman who would be floating in the East River right now if I hadn't shown up." Despite his harsh words, his hand reached for hers. "What were you thinking, Bella?" The concern in his voice broke through her anger. "Tasha's in the hospital. Appendicitis. The bills." Her voice cracked. "I needed the money." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Why didn't you call me?" "Because I don't want your money." The words burst out. "I don't want to be one more problem you can solve by throwing cash at it. So instead you risked your life with gangsters." His laugh held no humor. "Brilliant logic." The car turned onto a private road, winding through dense forest. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across Carmel's face. "My place upstate," he explained. "It's secure. Moretti has connections. We need to lie low until I can handle the situation. I need to check on Tasha, already taken care of. I had my assistant arrange private nursing care and cover all expenses." He raised a hand at her protest. "Consider it a loan, if your pride demands it." Inside his modern forest retreat, Carmel moved with efficient familiarity, leading her to a spacious bathroom where a first aid kit awaited. Without asking, Bella dampened a cloth and began gently cleaning the cut above his eye. "You'll need stitches," she murmured, focusing on the task rather than the intimacy of standing between his legs as he sat on the edge of the marble tub. "It can wait." His eyes never left her face as she worked, his hands resting lightly on her. "Hips, why did you really come tonight?" she asked finally. "The truth." He was silent for a long moment. "Because the thought of you in danger terrifies me more than anything I've ever faced." His hands tightened slightly. "Because I can't eat or sleep or function knowing you're out there hating me." "I don't hate you." The admission cost her. "I want to. It would be easier." "Easier than what?" "Than loving you." The words slipped out before she could stop them. "Than missing you every second while knowing I can never trust you again." His breath caught. Slowly, he stood, bringing their bodies together, one hand rising to cradle her face. "You love me?" The vulnerability in his voice undid her. "Yes," she whispered. "God help me, I do." His mouth found hers with desperate hunger, his arms enfolding her as if she might disappear. Bella melted into him, all the hurt and anger of the past week dissolving under the onslaught of sensation. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him in closer. He broke the kiss, his forehead resting against hers. "I love you, Bella, more than I've ever loved anyone or anything." His voice rough with emotion. "I'll spend every day earning back your trust if you'll let me." "I'm still angry," she warned, even as her fingers traced his jaw. "This doesn't fix everything." "I know." He pressed a kiss to her palm. "But it's a start." Later, in his massive bed, their bodies moved together with the desperate intensity of lovers who had faced loss and found each other again. Every touch was both plea and promise. Every kiss a reaffirmation. When release finally came, Bella cried out his name, his real name, for the first time. After, as they lay tangled together in the moonlight, Carmel traced intricate patterns on her bare skin with gentle fingertips. "Marry me," he murmured against her hair, voice husky with emotion. Bella went completely still in his arms. "What?" He shifted, propping himself on one elbow to look down at her, his expression utterly serious. "Marry me," he repeated, more certain now. "Be my wife, my partner, my everything." "We haven't even resolved our issues," she protested, though her heart raced. "You lied about your identity for weeks, and I'll spend a lifetime making that up to you," he promised, his eyes never leaving hers. "But tonight made one thing crystal clear. I can't lose you again. Life is too short, too unpredictable." His hand cupped her cheek with infinite tenderness. "I've built an empire, acquired more wealth than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. None of it means anything without you." Bella searched his face, finding nothing but sincerity. "This is crazy," she whispered. "Is it?" His thumb traced her lower lip. "Or is it the sanest decision either of us will ever make?" The question hung between them. Bella thought of all the reasons to say no, then thought of a life without him. "Yes," she said finally, the word a release and a beginning. "Yes, I'll marry you." His smile was blinding as he gathered her close. Their kiss sealed the promise, tender at first, then deepening into something more urgent, as passion reignited between them. Neither of them could know that their greatest challenge still awaited, one that would test their newfound commitment in ways they couldn't imagine. Chapter 6. Surrender. Bella woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows, and the seductive aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting from somewhere nearby. For a moment, disorientation clouded her mind until memories of the previous night flooded back. The chaos at Club Noir, their narrow escape, Carmel's heartfelt proposal, and her acceptance that had changed everything. She stretched languidly, a pleasant soreness in her muscles testifying to the passionate hours they'd spent celebrating their engagement. The space beside her in the massive bed was empty, but still warm. Wrapping the silken sheet around her naked body, she padded barefoot through the house, following the coffee scent like a beacon. She found Carmel on the terrace, shirtless in low slung, pajama bottoms that revealed the sculpted planes of his abdomen. His back was to her as he spoke quietly but intensely into his phone, muscled shoulders tense with focus. Early morning sun gilded his bronze skin, highlighting both his powerful physique and, more concerningly, the dark bruises blooming along his ribs, vivid evidence of the fight at Moretti's club. "I don't care what it costs," he was saying, his voice carrying the unmistakable authority of a man accustomed to being obeyed without question. "I want every piece of evidence against Moretti and Petrov in the DA's hands by noon, and make sure those hospital bills are taken care of, anonymously." He turned, sensing her presence, and his expression transformed instantly from calculating CEO to devoted lover. "I'll call you back," he told the person on the other end, before ending the call, his eyes softening as they took in the sight of her. "Good morning," he said, crossing to her and pressing a gentle kiss to her lips. "Sleep well?" "Better than I have in days," she admitted, accepting the coffee mug he offered. She gestured toward his bruised torso. "Those look painful." "Worth it." His smile held no regret. "I'd take worse to keep you safe." The casual declaration of devotion still felt foreign to Bella, who had spent a lifetime learning not to depend on anyone. She moved to the terrace railing, looking out over the forest surrounding the property. "Is this real?" she asked quietly, not turning to face him. This place last night. Sometimes it feels like I'm living someone else's life." Warm hands settled on her shoulders, his chest a solid presence against her back. "It's real," he murmured, pressing a kiss to the sensitive spot below her ear. "Though I understand the disbelief. I wake up every morning amazed that you're mine." She turned in his arms. "I'm not, though. Yours. Not like a possession." Poor choice of words, he acknowledged. "I'm yours, more accurately. Have been since." That elevator, the reminder of their beginning, softened her expression. "Speaking of possessions, we should talk about a prenuptial agreement." Carmel raised an eyebrow. "Protecting your vast culinary empire from my gold-digging ways?" Despite herself, Bella laughed. "I'm serious. You have billions to protect." "From you?" He shook his head. "The woman who donated her payment from my gala rather than deposit it." Her surprise must have shown on her face because he smiled wryly. "Yes, I know about that. I know many things about you, Bella Gilmore." His expression turned serious. "But if it makes you more comfortable, we can have whatever legal documents you want drawn up." "It's the sensible thing to do," she insisted. "When has anything about us been sensible?" His hands slid down to her waist, tugging her closer. "We met in an elevator, had mind-blowing sex on our first date, and got engaged after a brawl with the Russian mob. Sensible left the building a long time ago." His logic was infuriatingly accurate. Standing there in the morning sunlight, wrapped only in a sheet while the billionaire CEO of a global empire looked at her as if she were the only woman in the world, Bella had to admit that sensible didn't apply to their relationship. "Fine," she conceded, "but I want to maintain my business, my independence." "I wouldn't have it any other way." His smile was genuine. "Your drive, your talent, they're part of who you are. I'd never ask you to give that up." The simple understanding in his voice melted another layer of her defenses. This man, with all his power, his wealth, his commanding presence, respected her autonomy in ways previous partners never had. "When do we go back to the city?" she asked, changing the subject before emotion overwhelmed her. "Tomorrow, perhaps, once I'm certain Moretti and Petrov are no longer issues." His jaw tightened momentarily. "They made a critical error threatening you." "What did you do?" Concern crept into her voice. "Nothing violent," he assured her, recognizing her worry. "Just provided certain financial records to the appropriate authorities. Records that were conveniently on your phone after your impromptu photography session in Moretti's office." Bella's eyes widened. "You went through my phone?" "You were sleeping," he said unapologetically. And those photos were evidence of money laundering on a massive scale. The kind of evidence that will keep Moretti and his associates occupied with legal troubles for the foreseeable future. She should have been angry at the invasion of privacy, but found herself more impressed by his efficiency. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." "Not possible." His hands slid lower, untucking the sheet from where she'd secured it. "You occupy a very, very good side." His lips found hers, morning coffee forgotten, as desire sparked between them again. With deliberate slowness, he unwrapped her like a precious gift, the sheet pooling at her feet as he lifted her onto the terrace table, his mouth trailing down her throat to her breasts. "Someone could see," she gasped, even as her legs wrapped around his waist. "Private property, miles from the nearest neighbor." His voice was rough with want. "Though if exhibitionism concerns you, we have about 30 other rooms to christen." The Beale. Playfulness was new, a side of him she hadn't seen before. This wasn't the controlled CEO, or even the intense lover she'd come to know, but someone lighter, happier. The realization that she was the cause of that transformation sent warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with physical desire. "Let's start here," she decided, pulling him closer. "Then work our way through the house." His laugh was swallowed by her kiss as she surrendered to the joy of the moment, to the man who had fought his way into her heart despite every barrier she directed. Later, after they'd made good on her suggestion in both the kitchen and the library, they lay tangled together on a plush rug before a crackling fire. Outside, rain had replaced the morning sunshine, pattering against the windows in a soothing rhythm. "Tell me about your childhood home," Bella asked, her head pillowed on his chest. "The real one, not the penthouse." Carmel was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her bare shoulder. "Small," he said finally. 2 bedrooms. In East Harlem. My mother kept it spotless, despite working 3 jobs. Always smelled like lemon furniture polish and whatever she was cooking. The wistfulness in his voice tugged at Bella's heart. "What happened to it after she died?" "Landlord evicted me when the rent came due," he said matter-of-factly. "I was 16, had no legal right to the lease. Child services came, and that was that." Bella tightened her arm around his waist, imagining the scared teenager behind the powerful man. "Where is it now?" "I own the building." His tone was carefully neutral. "Bought it 10 years ago when I made my first million. Renovated it, kept the rents affordable for the families living there." The revelation touched her deeply. For all his billions, all his glamorous properties around the world, he had made a point of reclaiming that piece of his past. "Will you take me there someday?" she asked softly. He lifted his head to look at her, surprise evident in his expression. "You want to see it?" "I want to see all of you," she said simply. "Not just the billionaire CEO or the passionate lover, but the boy who grew up in East Harlem, the person you were before the world knew your name." Something vulnerable flickered in his eyes. "Yes," he said finally, "I'll take you there." Later that afternoon, the rain still falling steadily, Carmel led Bella through the house to a room they hadn't yet explored. A key from his pocket unlocked heavy wooden doors, revealing what appeared to be a childhood sanctuary preserved in time. "My treehouse," he explained, gesturing to the rustic structure built into an enormous oak tree, visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. Or rather, the indoor access to it. "I built it when I first bought this property. Childish, perhaps." The space was anything but childish. The treehouse, accessible from both the room they stood in and an exterior ladder, was a marvel of engineering and craftsmanship. A multi-level structure with comfortable seating, bookshelves, and windows strategically placed to maximize the forest view. "You built this yourself?" Bella asked, stepping closer to the glass. "With my hands, yes." Pride colored his voice. "One of the few things I still do without delegating. The construction skills from my early jobs never left me." Show. Me, she said, turning to him with genuine interest. Surprise and pleasure mingled in his expression. Taking her hand, he led her through a door that opened directly into the treehouse. Despite the rain pattering on the roof, the interior remained dry and welcoming. Built-in benches lined the walls, covered with comfortable cushions, while shelves held an eclectic collection of books, everything from engineering texts to classic literature. "It's magnificent," Bella said honestly, running her hand along a perfectly joined piece of woodwork. "I never would have guessed the fearsome Carmel Wilson spent his free time building tree houses." "No one knows." He moved to stand behind her, arms encircling her waist. "Only you." The simple statement held profound meaning. This man, who guarded his privacy with the ferocity of a lion, was showing her a side of himself no one else had seen. The trust implicit in the gesture moved her deeply. "Thank you," she said softly, turning in his arms. "For letting me see this. For letting me see you." His answer was a kiss, gentle at first, then deepening as the rain intensified outside. Their coming together was explosive, intense beyond anything Bella had experienced before. The physical connection awakened something, deeper, more profound than mere pleasure. As they moved together, finding a rhythm that built toward release, Bella found herself meeting his gaze, unable to look away from the raw emotion she saw reflected there. Wonder, hunger, and something that frightened her with its intensity. Later, as moonlight spilled across the rumpled sheets, Bella lay in the circle of Cam's arms, her head resting on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder, the gentle touch at odds with the passionate man who had claimed her body so thoroughly. "Stay," he murmured into her hair, his voice rough with satisfied desire. "Stay until morning." The request was simple, but weighted with implication. Bella knew that staying meant this wasn't just a one-night encounter, that whatever this thing between them was, it would continue beyond tonight. "We should get married here," she said suddenly, the idea feeling absolutely right in her heart. Not in some elaborate ceremony for the society pages, but here, in your treehouse, something intimate and real that belongs only to us. Carmel lifted his head to look at her, surprise giving way to a profound joy that transformed his features, making him appear younger, almost boyish in his delight. "You're serious?" "Completely." She traced the strong line of his jaw with her fingertip, feeling the slight roughness of evening stubble beneath her touch. "This place is the real you, not the penthouse, not the office tower with your name on it. This is where you're truly yourself. Why start our marriage anywhere else?" The emotion that filled his eyes nearly undid her, a vulnerability and gratitude, so deep it made her throat tighten with answering emotion. Without a word, he kissed her with such tender reverence it brought unexpected tears to her eyes. "When?" he asked, his voice rough. "Now," she said, surprising herself with the certainty. "Today, just us, making promises we intend to keep. Isn't that what you said?" For a moment he seemed speechless, a rare occurrence for a man who commanded boardrooms and navigated high-stakes negotiations daily. "What about a license? Witnesses? All the legal requirements?" he asked finally. Bella smiled. "You're Carmel Wilson. Are you telling me you can't make those details happen?" His answering laugh held genuine delight. "You're right." He reached for his phone, abandoned earlier with their clothes. "Give me an hour." True to his word, as twilight fell and the rain gradually subsided, everything was prepared. A local judge had been arranged, paperwork expedited through channels Bella chose not to question. Carmel had even managed to have a simple white dress delivered, a sheath of fine silk that draped her curves perfectly. "Something borrowed," he said, presenting her with a delicate necklace of pearls that had belonged to his mother. "I've kept it all these years. She would have loved you." Bella blinked back tears as he fastened it around her neck, the weight of its significance not lost on her. This man, who had lost everyone he loved, was entrusting her with not just his future but the precious fragments of his past. The treehouse had been transformed with dozens of candles and simple arrangements of white flowers. The judge, a dignified older woman who had known Carmel since his early days in New York, smiled warmly as they stood before her, hands clasped tightly. "I've officiated hundreds of weddings," she commented, "but never one quite like this." The ceremony was brief but meaningful, traditional vows spoken with voices that occasionally trembled with emotion. When Carmel slid a ring onto Bella's finger, a simple band of platinum rather than the ostentatious diamond she might have expected, she felt its weight as a promise rather than a possession. "By the power vested in me by the state of New York," the judge concluded with genuine warmth, "I pronounce you husband and wife." Their kiss sealed the vows, beginning with tender reverence before deepening into passionate certainty, embodying perfectly the journey that had brought them to this moment. As the judge discreetly departed, leaving them alone in the candlelit tree house, Bella looked up at her husband with wonder. "Mrs. Wilson," Carmel murmured, his eyes reflecting the dancing candlelight and something infinitely more valuable, a depth of love she had never dared dream possible. "Mr. Gilmore Wilson," she corrected with a playful yet meaningful smile, earning a laugh that rumbled from deep in his chest and warmed her to her core. That night, they made love as husband and wife for the first time. Their connection deepened by the promises they had exchanged. Every touch, every kiss carried new meaning, the certainty of belonging, of having found in each other the home neither had truly known before. What they couldn't know, as they lay sated in each other's arms, was that their greatest challenge still awaited them. The sanctuary they had created would soon be tested in ways neither could imagine. Chapter 7. The Gala. 3 weeks into their marriage, Bella and Carmel had settled into a rhythm that balanced intimacy with independence. Rather than moving into his penthouse, they split their time between her apartment and his various properties, maintaining the sanctuary of separate spaces while building a life together. The business world remained oblivious to their union, a deliberate choice. Bella insisted on establishing her catering company's reputation without the Wilson name attached to it, while Carmel respected her need for professional autonomy. "You need to attend the Wilson Foundation Gala," Carmel said one morning, as Bella prepared breakfast in her apartment kitchen. "As my date?" Bella paused, spatula in hand. "Your date? Not your wife?" "I thought we agreed to keep our marriage private for now." He leaned against the counter, watching her with undisguised appreciation. "Until your business is more established." She placed a plate of perfectly prepared eggs Benedict before him. "And you're okay with that? Introducing me as, what? A girlfriend. I'm okay with whatever makes you comfortable." His hand caught hers, thumb brushing over the simple platinum band she wore on a chain beneath her clothes when working. "Though I'd prefer to announce to the world that you're mine." The possessive edge in his voice sent heat coursing through her. 3 weeks of marriage hadn't diminished their physical connection. If anything, it had intensified, security creating space for exploration that left them both constantly craving more. "The press will have a field day," she warned. "Black chef from Brooklyn marries billionaire in secret ceremony." "Let them." His eyes darkened as he pulled her between his legs. "I'm not ashamed of who we are." His kiss tasted of coffee and desire, breakfast forgotten as his hands slid beneath her robe. When they finally came up for air, Bella's decision was made. "Fine, I'll go to your gala." She nipped lightly at his lower lip. "But I'm wearing my own dress, one I designed." "Deal." His smile was triumphant. "Though I can't promise to behave if you look too tempting." "When have you ever behaved?" She laughed, slipping from his grasp. "Now eat your breakfast before it gets cold. Some of us have work to do." The night of the gala arrived with surprising swiftness. Bella stood before the mirror in Carmel's penthouse, assessing her reflection critically. The dress she'd designed was a deep crimson silk that flowed over her curves like liquid. The cut simple but elegant, with a plunging back that revealed the smooth expanse of her dark skin. No designer label, no $1,000 price tag. Just clean lines and expert construction that reflected her own aesthetic. Her only jewelry was a pair of simple pearl earrings that had belonged to Carmel's mother, a gesture that meant more than any diamond could have. "You're going to cause a riot," Carmel said from the doorway, his expression making her skin flush. With warmth, in his tuxedo, he looked every inch the billionaire CEO, powerful, commanding, devastatingly handsome. Sometimes Bella still couldn't believe this man, who could have anyone, had chosen her. "You don't think it's too simple?" she asked, smoothing the fabric. "Most women will be dripping in designer labels. Most women aren't you." He crossed to stand behind her, their eyes meeting in the mirror. "Most women are trying to prove their worth through what they wear." His lips brushed the sensitive skin below her ear. "You've never needed to." The journey to the venue was quiet, an undercurrent of tension building between them. This would be their first public appearance as a couple, stepping out from the private cocoon they'd created. Bella felt the weight of impending scrutiny, the assumptions, the judgment, the inevitable questions about gold digging and social climbing. "Second thoughts?" Carmel asked as the car pulled up to the red carpet. "No." She squared her shoulders. "Just preparing for battle." His laugh was warm with understanding. "Remember, these people fear me more than you fear them." He squeezed her hand. "And I adore you in a way none of them have ever experienced." With cameras flashing, they entered the glittering ballroom arm in arm. The elite of New York's social scene filled the space, champagne flowing freely as millions were pledged to the Wilson Foundation's educational initiatives. Whispers followed their progress across the room, curious, speculative, occasionally. Envious glances directed at Bella and the possessive hand Carmel kept at the small of her back. Who is she? Where did he find her? What is she wearing? The murmurs were just audible enough to reach her ears, but Bella held her head high, focusing on Carmel's steady presence beside her. When he was pulled away for business discussions, she found herself momentarily alone at the edge of the crowd, an island of calm in the sea of social maneuvering. "So you're Carmel's latest distraction." The voice came from behind her. Cultured, female, dripping with condescension. Bella turned to find herself facing three women, all impeccably dressed in designer gowns, all studying her with the predatory focus of lionesses spotting a gazelle. "I'm sorry." Bella kept her voice pleasant, professional. "Valencia Sinclair." The woman in the center extended a manicured hand, her smile not reaching her eyes. "An old friend of Carmel's." The emphasis on friend made the implication clear. This was an ex marking territory. Bella Gilmore. She accepted the handshake briefly, noting the slight surprise that flickered across Valencia's face at her lack of intimidation. "That's an interesting choice." Valencia's gaze slid dismissively over Bella's dress. Was the boutique having a sale? Titters of laughter from her companions made Bella's spine stiffen, but she maintained her composure. "I designed it myself, actually." "How crafty," one of the other women remarked. "Like those DIY videos online. Though perhaps with a bit more budget next time, the stitching along the hem is rather obvious." Bella had faced this type of woman her entire life. Those who measured worth by price tags and pedigrees, who wielded privilege as a weapon. Usually she walked away, refusing to engage. But something about standing in Carmel's world, representing not just herself, but their partnership, made retreat impossible. "I find quality isn't always about what you spend," she said calmly. Sometimes it's about understanding true value. Valencia's perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched. And what would a caterer know about value, especially when it comes to a man like Carmel Wilson? The jab revealed more than Valencia intended. She'd researched. Bella knew her profession. The realization was almost amusing. I wonder, Bella mused, do you always evaluate people based on their net worth? It must be exhausting, constantly calculating whether someone deserves your attention. Valencia's smile tightened. Don't mistake this for jealousy, darling. We've all seen Carmel's philanthropic projects before. Her gaze swept over Bella again, lingering pointedly on her skin, though he usually prefers more traditional choices. The racist undertone made Bella's blood boil, but she maintained her outward calm. How fortunate that Carmel values originality. Then, let's be clear. Valencia stepped closer, voice lowering to ensure only Bella could hear, her breath carrying the sharp scent of expensive champagne. You're a temporary amusement. Once the novelty wears off, he'll return to his own kind. He always does. The words struck with calculated precision, designed to wound. Before Bella could formulate a response, fate intervened in the form of a champagne flute that seemingly materialized against Valencia's sleeve, spilling golden liquid down her designer gown. The woman holding the glass, Bella recognized her as the wife of one of Carmel's executives, offered profuse apologies that barely masked her satisfaction. Oh, Valencia, how clumsy of me! And on such an expensive dress. She shot Bella a lightning-quick wink of solidarity before hustling the sputtering Valencia toward the restrooms. The momentary reprieve allowed Bella to retreat to a quieter corner of the ballroom, her composure finally cracking as the venomous words replayed in her mind. Was this what integration into Carmel's world would mean? Constant scrutiny, thinly veiled racism, assumptions about her worth. Are you all right? She turned to find a distinguished older woman watching her with kind eyes, Judge Fowler. Bella recognized the woman who had married them in the treehouse. I didn't realize you'd be here. Carmel invites me every year, though I rarely attend. These circuses. Her shrewd gaze took in Bella's expression. I see you've met the Valencia contingent. That obvious. They leave a particular kind of devastation in their wake. The judge's smile was knowing. Don't let them fool you. Most of these people are terrified of Carmel, and by extension anyone he values. Before Bella could respond, a commotion near the main entrance drew their attention. Valencia had returned, her gown still bearing the champagne stain, her face contorted with malicious glee as she addressed a gathering crowd. Carmel's little secret is out, she announced, voice carrying, across the suddenly quieted room. His exotic pet project isn't just warming his bed. She's a charity case. Her sister was hospitalized with no insurance. Guess who paid the bills? The murmurs rippled through the crowd, all eyes turning to search for Bella, who stood frozen in shock. How had Valencia discovered that information? But wait, it gets better, Valencia continued, clearly enjoying her moment in the spotlight. Our little cater-waiter was caught working for Vincenzo Moretti. Yes, that Moretti, the one currently under federal investigation for money laundering. The gasps and whispers intensified. Bella felt the walls closing in as hundreds of judgmental gazes found her, dissecting her simple dress, her obvious lack of belonging in their world. Shame and anger warred within her, not for the accusations themselves, but for allowing herself to be vulnerable to such public humiliation. As she turned to leave, desperate to escape, Valencia delivered her final blow. Face it, Carmel picked. Up another stray, just like he always does. Another project to save. Another cheap, that's my wife you're speaking to. Carmel's voice cut through the room like a blade, silencing even Valencia mid-sentence. He stood at the entrance to the ballroom, his expression thunderous as he strode purposefully toward Bella, The collective gasp was audible as the implications of his words registered. Valencia's face drained of color. "Your wife?" someone echoed, incredulously. Carmel reached Bella, one arm sliding protectively around her waist as he faced the stunned crowd. "Yes, my wife, though I fail to see how that's anyone's business but ours." "You married her?" Valencia's voice had risen an octave, disbelief etched across her features. "3 weeks ago," he confirmed, his gaze never leaving Bella's face, his expression softening as he addressed her directly. "And it was the best decision I've ever made." Before the murmurs could build again, he pulled Bella to him, one hand cradling her face with such tenderness that the room seemed to fall away. His kiss was neither chaste nor showy. It was a declaration, passionate and unwavering, leaving no doubt about the nature of their relationship. When they finally parted, Bella was aware of the silence that had fallen over the room, of the open shock on faces like Valencia's, and surprisingly, of the small smiles of approval from others, including Judge Fowler, "I believe," Carmel said, his voice carrying easily through the hushed space, "that an apology is owed to my wife." Valencia's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, her composure finally cracking under the weight of Carmel's cold stare. I didn't realize," she stammered. "Clearly." His tone could have frozen flame. "Now, if you've finished embarrassing yourself, I suggest you leave before I reconsider my company's numerous contracts with your family's hotel chain." The threat, delivered with calm precision, sent Valencia scurrying toward the exit, her companions trailing in her wake like deflated balloons. Carmel turned back to Bella, unconcerned with the avid attention of the remaining guests. "I'm sorry," he said softly, for her ears alone. "I should never have left you to face them alone." "You're making a scene," she whispered, though she couldn't suppress the warmth spreading through her at his public defense. "I'm making a statement," he corrected, his thumb tracing the curve of her cheek, "that the woman in the cheap dress is worth more than everyone else in this room combined." His words, spoken with such conviction, healed something Bella hadn't realized was wounded. In that moment, despite the whispers, despite the stares, she felt truly secure in her place beside him, not as an accessory or a project, but as an equal partner chosen for herself. "Take me home," she murmured, suddenly exhausted by the emotional whiplash of the evening. His smile was both tender and heated. "With pleasure, Mrs. Wilson." As they departed, heads still together in hushed conversation, the gala erupted behind them. Phones documenting the unexpected revelation, voices speculating on the secret marriage, bets already being placed on its duration. None of it mattered. In the sanctuary of the car, Bella curled against Carmel's side, allowing the tension to drain from her body as his fingers stroked soothingly through her hair. "So much for keeping our marriage private," she said, a hint of wry humor returning to her voice. "Are you angry?" His question held genuine concern. Bella considered, then shook her head. "No." "Relieved, actually." She tilted her face up to his. "I'm tired of hiding how I feel about you." His kiss was answer enough, deep and possessive, a promise of the night to come. By the time they reached the penthouse, both were breathless with need, clothes discarded in a trail from the elevator to the bedroom as they reaffirmed their connection in the most primal way possible. Later, as they lay tangled in sweat-dampened sheets, Carmel's fingers traced lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "You know the press will be relentless now," he warned. "Your privacy—" "Let them come," Bella said, with newfound certainty. "I'm done hiding." Her hand splayed across his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Besides, if tonight proved anything, it's that I need to stake my claim publicly. Those women were circling you like sharks." His laugh rumbled beneath her cheek. "Trust me, no one compares to you." His arm tightened around her, but I do like this possessive streak. Feel free to mark your territory any time." They drifted to sleep wrapped in each other, the outside world momentarily forgotten. Neither could know that Valencia's humiliation had planted a seed of vengeful obsession, one that would soon blossom into a threat to both their happiness and Bella's life. Chapter 8. Targeted. The morning after the gala, Bella and Carmel's private life had become public spectacle. Their faces graced every tabloid with headlines screaming, "Billionaire's secret marriage." Paparazzi camped outside Bella's apartment and catering kitchen, while clients either cancelled contracts or booked her specifically to glimpse Carmel Wilson's mysterious bride. "This is exactly what I didn't want," Bella said, showing Carmel an email from a client requesting she personally cater so we can meet Carmel's wife. "It'll pass," he promised, though his expression betrayed concern. The scrutiny only intensified. Gossip blogs unearthed Bella's foster care background, while business publications questioned Carmel's judgment, citing her tenuous connection to Moretti. Most painful were the comments about their racial difference, subtle in mainstream media, but explicit online. 2 weeks after the gala, Zoe rushed into Bella's office with a video interview of Valencia Sinclair. "I've known Carmel for years," Valencia was saying, "and I worry about him. This hasty marriage, it's not like him. He's always been careful. To suddenly wed someone from such a different background raises questions." The interviewer leaned forward, eagerly. "Are you suggesting there's more to this relationship? Let's just say Carmel has a history of rescue missions, taking in strays, fixing broken things." Her smile couldn't mask the malice. "I just hope he hasn't confused charity with love." That evening, Carmel found Bella staring out the penthouse windows. "Am I a charity case?" she asked. "One of your rescue missions? Is that what you think?" His hands cradled her face. "Since when do you care what everyone thinks? The Bella I know would tell them all to go to hell." His certainty coaxed a reluctant smile. "Maybe she's tired of fighting. Then I'll fight for both of us." 2 nights later, they attended a business dinner with potential investors. Among them was Alexander Reed, a business rival known for his cutthroat tactics. Throughout dinner, Bella noticed Reed watching her with calculated interest. During dessert, Valencia Sinclair made an unexpected appearance. "Carmel, darling," she trilled. "I had no idea you'd be here. I'm just having dinner with Alexander." The calculated ambush was obvious. Carmel's expression remained impassive, though Bella felt his tension. "Valencia," he acknowledged coldly. "I see you've found a new protector." Valencia smiled tightly. "Alexander and I are just friends. Unlike some, I take time to build relationships before rushing into commitments." The barb was aimed directly at Bella, who refused to give Valencia the reaction she sought. "It's lovely to see you again, Valencia. That shade of lipstick is much more flattering than what you wore to the gala." Valencia's hand drifted self-consciously to her mouth as Reed interjected. "We were discussing the Sullivan acquisition. I understand Wilson Enterprises has expressed interest. Perhaps we should combine forces," Reed suggested. "I'm sure Valencia would enjoy working closely with both of us again." The implication that the three had some shared history hung in the air. Bella felt Carmel's hand find hers beneath the table. "I prefer to keep business and pleasure separate," Carmel replied firmly. Valencia laughed brittlely. "Since when? As I recall, you were quite willing to blur those lines during our Tokyo merger." As they prepared to leave, Reed made a final play. "Bella, I'd love to discuss catering options for my charity event. Perhaps we could meet privately?" Valencia added with false sweetness. "Yes, do consider it. I've heard your little business is struggling since the revelations about your client list. I'll have my assistant contact yours," Bella replied smoothly. "Though I should warn you, my rates have increased substantially since I married a billionaire." Her deliberate embrace of the gold digger stereotype, delivered with obvious irony, caught Valencia off guard. In the car, Carmel drew her close. "You are magnificent. Most women would have thrown champagne in her face. I considered it," Bella admitted, "but my dress is too nice to risk splashing." Later that night, Bella voiced her concerns. "Valencia and Reed are working together, but why? Reed wants Wilson Enterprises," Carmel explained. "Valencia wants revenge for perceived humiliation." "Perceived? You two were involved?" "Briefly, years ago. She assumed it was heading toward marriage. I made it clear it wasn't. And now she can't stand that you married someone else." Bella settled against his chest. "Especially someone she considers beneath you." His arms tightened. "Around her, there's no one above you in my eyes. Remember that no matter what they say or do." The following evening, Bella catered a prestigious dinner for the city's arts patrons. As she presented the main course, a sudden wave of dizziness washed over her, the room tilting alarmingly. Back in the kitchen, the dizziness intensified violently, accompanied by a terrifying numbness spreading across her lips and a sharp electric tingling in her fingertips, unmistakable harbingers of anaphylaxis from her shellfish allergy, though she was certain she hadn't consumed any. "Zoe," she gasped, her tongue already feeling thick in her mouth. "My EpiPen, in my bag, now." Alarm exploded across Zoe's face as she took in Bella's rapidly deteriorating condition. Angry red hives beginning to mottle her neck, her breathing transforming into a frightening wheeze. "What happened?" she demanded, scrambling frantically. "For the medication." "Don't know," Bella managed, panic rising as her throat began to constrict. "Shellfish. Somehow." The kitchen's bright lights blurred and swam as adrenaline flooded her system. She heard distant shouting, felt hands supporting her as her knees buckled, then merciful darkness claimed her. Carmel was in a video conference when the call came. "It's Bella," his assistant said. "Mount Sinai Hospital. Allergic reaction." In the emergency room, he found Zoe pacing anxiously. "Anaphylaxis," she explained. "She was fine 1 minute, then couldn't breathe." "We're fanatical about cross-contamination in the kitchen." Behind the curtain, Bella lay connected to monitors, an oxygen mask covering her face. "The doctor says she'll be okay," Zoe continued. "The EpiPen bought crucial time." "This wasn't an accident," Carmel said quietly. "Someone did this deliberately." When Bella briefly regained consciousness, she managed to rasp, "Drink my champagne," after the toast. Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. The champagne served to staff after the event. Anyone with knowledge of her schedule would have known about it. Anyone with access could have slipped shellfish extract into her glass. "I'll have the glass tested," he promised. "Rest now. I'm not leaving your side." As Bella drifted back to sleep, Carmel's expression transformed. Gone was the worried husband, replaced by something colder, the ruthless businessman who had built an empire through sheer force of will. "Find out who had access to the venue," he instructed Zoe. "Every server, every delivery person, every guest who arrived early." "What are you going to do?" she asked, both fascinated and frightened. His smile held no warmth. "Protect what's mine." By morning, when Bella finally awoke clear-headed, he had compiled evidence pointing to one conclusion. Valencia had one of the waitstaff replaced last minute, he explained. The champagne tested positive for shellfish protein. "She tried to kill me," Bella whispered, the realization settling over her. "She'll pay for it," Carmel promised, his voice holding a dangerous edge. "I've already started, liquidating all investments in Sinclair Holdings. By market close, their stock will be in freefall." The cold calculation in his tone startled Bella. This wasn't just the protective husband. This was Carmel Wilson, the businessman who had destroyed competitors without remorse. Chapter 9. Trust and Surrender. Bella was released from the hospital, Still shaken by the deliberate nature of the attack, despite the assassination attempt, she refused to move into Carmel's penthouse permanently. "I'm not abandoning my home because Valencia Sinclair is unstable," she insisted, though what she didn't say was that she needed distance from the cold, calculating side of Carmel she had glimpsed, the ruthless businessman who could destroy lives. "With a single phone call, I need to protect you," he said, taking her hands in his. His eyes burned with an intensity that both thrilled and frightened her. "If that makes me someone you don't recognize, I'm sorry, but I won't apologize for doing whatever it takes to keep you safe. I don't want to be another possession you defend," she said softly, stepping closer until their bodies touched. "I want to be a partner who stands beside you, not behind your protection." That night, as they lay entwined in her bed, smaller than his luxurious king but somehow more intimate, Carmel's hands roamed her body with a reverence that made her breath catch. "Tell me about you and Valencia," she asked, needing to understand the woman who hated her enough to wish her harm. "We dated briefly, about 5 years ago," he explained, his fingers trailing fire across her skin. "Her family owns the Sinclair hotel chain, old money, significant connections. On paper we made sense, but not in reality. She wanted the idea of me more than the actual person," he said, his lips finding the sensitive spot below her ear that made her arch against him. "When I realized that, I ended it. She didn't take rejection well. The next morning brought an unexpected development. A dossier revealing that Alexander Reed had been working with Valencia for months, orchestrating media leaks and surveillance of Bella to create a wedge between her and Carmel. The evidence was damning. Photos of Bella entering her apartment, working in her kitchen, meeting with clients. They had been watching her for weeks, mapping her routines. "We need to separate them," Bella said, a plan forming. "By giving Valencia exactly what she wants, apparent proof that our marriage is failing. If she thinks I've left you, she'll get careless." Carmel's jaw tightened, his protective instincts warring with his respect for her agency. Finally, he pulled her against him, kissing her with such possession it left her breathless. "We do it together," he insisted. "Every step planned, every contingency covered." "Partners," she agreed, her body already responding to his touch, the shared purpose reigniting the passion that uncertainty had temporarily dampened. Later, as they lay entwined in afternoon sunlight, their bodies slick with exertion, Carmel traced reverent patterns on her bare shoulder. "Sometimes I still can't believe you're real," he murmured, "that you chose me, knowing everything you know." "I chose you," she affirmed, pressing a kiss to his chest directly over his heart. "All of you, the good, the complicated, even the occasionally terrifying." His laugh rumbled beneath her cheek. "Terrifying? When you go all executioner mode?" She straddled him, reveling in the heat that flared instantly in his eyes. "Absolutely terrifying. Also, if I'm being completely honest, She rolled her hips against him, feeling him harden beneath her. "A little bit sexy." His hands gripped her waist, flipping her beneath him in one fluid motion that made her gasp with delight. "Only a little bit," he growled, his mouth claiming hers with renewed hunger. Their passionate reconciliation sealed their plan into action. They staged a public argument loud enough to be overheard, but vague enough to fuel speculation. Bella checked into a hotel alone, while Carmel threw himself into work, appearing distracted in public. 3 days later, Bella received a text from Valencia. "Heard about the trouble in paradise. Drinks at Luciel tonight? Sometimes enemies make the best confidants." "She's not wasting time," Bella observed, showing Carmel the message in their secure meeting location. "She smells blood in the water," he replied, his expression darkening. "Are you sure about this?" Bella silenced his concern with a kiss that quickly escalated. her hands making quick work of his shirt buttons. "We need to end this," she whispered against his mouth. But first, hours later, her body still humming from their encounter, Bella arrived at Le Ciel. Valencia waited, immaculate in designer clothes, her smile holding calculated sympathy. "Darling," she greeted, air kissing near Bella's cheeks. "You look tired. Separation doesn't agree with you?" "I'm fine," Bella replied, sliding into the seat across from her, just adjusting to some new realities. "Aren't we all?" Valencia signaled the waiter. "Champagne for both of us. We're celebrating your liberation from Carmel Wilson, a lovely diversion, but a terrible husband." As Valencia sipped her champagne, her true malice emerged. "Tell me, what was the final straw? The controlling behavior? The obsessive need to possess everything he touches?" Bella hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Let's just say I discovered sides to him I hadn't seen before, sides that frightened me." "Oh yes, the famous Wilson temper," Valencia purred, leaning closer. "Did he threaten to destroy someone for you? He does that, you know, thinks it's romantic." "Something like that," Bella encouraged Valencia to continue. "You're lucky, really," Valencia said, swirling her champagne. "Lee, not everyone escapes his orbit intact. Some of us bear the scars for years." "What did he do to you?" Bella asked, genuine curiosity mixing with her strategic objectives. Valencia's perfectly composed expression hardened. "He dismissed me, treated me as disposable after I gave him entree to social circles he could never have accessed otherwise. Then he replaced me with you." She laughed bitterly. "A catering girl from Brooklyn, of all things." "So this is about revenge?" Bella kept her tone neutral. "It's about justice," Valencia corrected. "Carmel Wilson has spent a lifetime taking what he wants, discarding people when they no longer serve his purposes." "By poisoning me?" Bella asked bluntly. "How does that teach Carmel anything?" Valencia's expression flickered briefly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do," Bella pressed. "Just like I think you know about the surveillance photos, the planted news stories, all orchestrated with Alexander Reed." Alarm replaced confidence in Valencia's eyes. "You're confused." "I'm thinking quite clearly," Bella assured her. "Clear enough to wonder what Alexander Reed is getting out of this arrangement. Besides you, of course." Valencia's composure cracked further. "You can't prove anything, and Carmel won't believe you anyway, not now that you've left him about that." Bella smiled as Carmel appeared behind Valencia, his timing perfect. "I may have exaggerated the separation." Valencia whirled to find herself face to face with the man she had been systematically trying to destroy. The color drained from her. "Her face." "Valencia," he greeted, his tone deceptively mild. "Plotting another assassination attempt or just general character assassination tonight?" "This is a private conversation between women," Valencia attempted to recover. "Surely your mother taught you better manners than to interrupt." "My mother taught me to protect what I love," he replied, his hand coming to rest possessively on Bella's shoulder. "Something you've made necessary with your obsessive vendetta." "You can't prove anything," Valencia repeated, with less conviction. "Actually, we can." Bella gestured to her purse, where the recording device captured every word. "But more importantly, so can the FBI agents currently executing a search warrant on your apartment." The blood drained completely from Valencia's face. "You're bluffing." "Would you like to call your doorman and check?" Carmel suggested. "Though I'm afraid he's rather busy directing federal agents at the moment." Valencia's composure shattered. "This is all Reed's fault," she hissed. "The poisoning was his idea. He said it would distract you from the Sullivan deal, create an opportunity while you were emotionally compromised." "I think we have what we need," Carmel said quietly, nodding to the legal colleague who had been discreetly recording nearby. "Ms. Sinclair, I suggest you contact your attorney. You'll be hearing from the district attorney shortly." As they turned to leave, Valencia made one final desperate play. This isn't over, Bella. Men like Carmel don't change. Ask yourself why he really married you. Was it love, or just the thrill of possessing something different? Bella paused, turning back. You know what your problem is, Valencia? You've never understood the difference between possession and partnership. She glanced up at Carmel, her expression softening. Fortunately for me, he does. Outside the hotel, Carmel pulled Bella against him, his mouth claiming hers with a passion that left her knees weak. His hands roamed possessively over her body, unconcerned with their public location. You were magnificent, he murmured against her neck, nipping lightly at her sensitive skin. Brave and brilliant and absolutely terrifying in your own right. They barely made it into the car before desire overwhelmed them, his mouth hot against hers, her hands urgent beneath his jacket. The privacy screen went up as the driver discreetly pulled away from the curb. I need you, Carmel growled, his control finally snapping as he lifted her onto his lap. Now! Their lovemaking was frantic, almost desperate, a celebration of victory and reaffirmation of their bond. When they finally arrived home, they continued their passionate reunion, christening every surface from the elevator to the bedroom in a night of uninhibited desire that left them both breathless and sated. Later, as they lay entwined, Bella's head pillowed on his chest, Carmel's fingers traced gentle patterns on her bare shoulder. You've changed me, he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. A year ago, I would have obliterated them both without hesitation. And now I understand there are more meaningful victories than annihilation. His lips pressed against her forehead. You've taught me that strength isn't measured by who you can destroy, but by what you choose to preserve. The realization moved her deeply. This evidence of his growth, his willingness to evolve within their partnership. As they drifted towards sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, Bella knew with absolute certainty that whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, not as billionaire and chef, not as savior and saved, but as equal partners in the truest sense. The woman in the cheap dress had found her place not behind or beneath the powerful man who loved her, but firmly at his side, exactly where she belonged. Chapter 10. Full Circle. 1 month after Valencia's exposure, Bella stood in the dressing room of the Grand Meridian Hotel, adjusting the final details of her outfit. The symmetry wasn't lost on her. This was where it had all begun, where she had first locked eyes with Carmel across a crowded ballroom where they had shared that life-changing kiss in the elevator. Tonight, the hotel hosted the Wilson Foundation's annual charity gala, and Bella wasn't just attending as Carmel's wife. She was catering the event, her company having won the contract fairly, without her husband's influence. You look stunning, Zoe said, helping her with a final adjustment to her dress. Bella smoothed her hands over the crimson silk, the same dress she had worn to the previous gala where she had been mocked for its simplicity. The same dress Valencia and her friends had called cheap. Tonight, however, she wore it with a difference. Around her neck hung Carmel's mother's pearls, and on her finger gleamed the platinum band that marked her as his wife. Ready to face the wolves again? Zoe asked, her expression concerned. Though Valencia and Reed had been neutralized, New York society remained a treacherous landscape for someone with Bella's background. They're not wolves, Bella replied with newfound confidence. Just people with their own insecurities. Besides, she smiled, I have something they'll never have. A billionaire husband? Zoe teased. A partnership based on love, not convenience. Bella checked her reflection one last time. That's worth more than all of Carmel's billions. She supervised the final preparations, her team executing her vision with practiced precision. The menu showcased her signature style, unexpected flavor, combinations that delighted the palate, presented with elegant simplicity. She had insisted on overseeing every detail personally, determined that her professional reputation stand on its own merits. As guests began arriving, Bella briefly caught Carmel's eye across the ballroom. In his tuxedo, he looked every inch the powerful CEO, yet the smile he sent her way was intimate, private, a promise of later that sent heat coursing through her veins despite the public setting. She was checking the temperature of the entrees when a commotion near the kitchen entrance caught her attention. Alexander Reed stood there, looking considerably less polished than when she had last seen him. The legal consequences of his conspiracy with Valencia had taken a visible toll. "You need to leave," the security guard was saying firmly. "You're not on the guest list." "I just need 5 minutes with Mrs. Wilson," Reed insisted, his voice loud enough to draw attention. "Please, it's important." Before the guard could escort him out, Bella approached, curiosity overriding caution. "It's all right," she told the key guard. "I'll speak with him, briefly." Reed's relief was palpable. "Thank you," he said, his usual arrogance notably absent. "I wouldn't have come if it wasn't important." "Make it quick," she replied coolly. "I have a gala to cater." "I wanted to apologize," he said, the words seeming to cost him considerable effort. "What Valencia and I did, it was unforgivable, especially the poisoning. That was never supposed to happen." Bella studied him, looking for deception but finding only defeat. "Why tell me this now?" "Because you won." His laugh held no humor. "Completely. The Sullivan deal collapsed. My investors pulled out. My reputation is in tatters." He shook his head. "And the worst part? You and Carmel didn't even have to destroy me. You just let me self-destruct." There was something almost pitiable about his admission. "That wasn't our goal," Bella said honestly. "We just wanted to protect ourselves, not annihilate you." "That's what makes it so masterful," Reed acknowledged. "The old Carmel would have crushed me without hesitation. This new version, the one who loves you, he's actually more formidable because he's selective about his battles." The insight surprised her, though she recognized its truth. Carmel had changed, evolving from a man who saw power as the ability to destroy into one who understood the greater strength in measured response. "Valencia sends her regards, by the way," Reed added. "From her new home in Switzerland. Her family thought it best she take an extended vacation while the legal matters settle." "And you?" Bella asked, genuinely curious. "What happens to Alexander Reed now?" "I rebuild," he said simply. "Smaller, wiser, hopefully better." He extended his hand. "No hard feelings." Bella considered the gesture. This olive branch from a man who had conspired to destroy her marriage and endanger her life. The old Bella might have held onto the grudge, nurturing it like a shield against future harm. The woman she had become, however, recognized the futility of such armor. "No hard feelings," she agreed, briefly accepting his handshake, "but no second chances either. Stay away from my family." Reed nodded, understanding the warning beneath her civil tone. "Congratulations, by the way," he said, turning to leave. "Carmel's a lucky man." As he departed, Bella felt a presence behind her. She didn't need to turn to know it was Carmel, his hand coming to rest possessively at the small of her back. "Problem?" he asked quietly. "Not anymore," she assured him, leaning slightly into his touch. "Just ghosts from the past making their final exit." His expression remained wary. "Reed isn't known for graceful defeats." "He's not the man he was," Bella observed. "Neither are you." Carmel's smile held a hint of wonder. "All your influence, I'm afraid. You've made me dangerously reasonable." "Dangerously?" "To my competitors, absolutely." His lips brushed her temple. They don't know how to counter a Carmel Wilson who doesn't lead with aggression. Their moment was interrupted as the catering manager approached with a question about the dessert service. Bella slipped smoothly back into her professional role, though the warmth of Carmel's touch lingered on her skin. The gala proceeded flawlessly, Bella's menu drawing enthusiastic praise from guests who had no idea the chef was also the host's wife. She had insisted on minimal public interaction between them during the event, determined to maintain the separation between her professional accomplishments and her personal relationship. As dessert was served, however, Carmel found her in a quiet corner of the kitchen, watching with satisfaction as her team executed the final course. "I have something for you," he said, slipping a small velvet box into her hand, a late wedding present. Puzzled, Bella opened it to find a key nestled on black velvet. "What's this?" "The deed to a building in East Harlem," he explained, his expression uncharacteristically nervous. "My childhood home. I thought maybe we could renovate the apartment where I grew up, make it ours, a place that belongs to our history, not just mine or yours." The gesture moved her deeply, this willingness to share not just his present and future, but the most vulnerable parts of his past. "I'd like that," she said softly, her fingers closing around the key. "Very much." Their moment was interrupted by a sharp pain that made Bella gasp, her hand flying to her abdomen. "What is it?" Carmel's concern was immediate, his hands steadying her as she leaned against the counter. "Nothing," she assured him, though her face betrayed discomfort. "Just the same cramps I've been having all week." His expression shifted from concern to suspicion. "All week? And you didn't mention this because—" "Because I had a gala to cater," she replied, stubbornness creeping into her tone. "It's probably just stress, or something I ate, or something else entirely," he suggested, studying her with newfound intensity. "When was your last period?" The question caught her off guard. Bella blinked, mental calculations racing. 7 weeks ago. But that's not unusual with my schedule and—" She stopped, realization dawning. Oh, indeed," Carmel agreed, a smile slowly spreading across his features. "I think we should have you checked out, just to be safe." The hospital confirmed what they both already suspected. As the doctor delivered the news, "Congratulations, you're about 6 weeks pregnant." Bella watched emotions cascade across Carmel's face in waves. Shock, wonder, vulnerability, and finally, a joy so pure and unguarded it took her breath away. "A baby," he whispered, his voice breaking on the simple words as his hand found hers, fingers intertwining with almost desperate tenderness. "Our baby." The reverent awe in his voice mirrored the overwhelming emotions flooding through Bella's heart. This child would be the perfect blend of them both, the orphaned boy who had built an empire from nothing and the foster girl who had forged her own path through sheer determination. A precious life born from their unlikely, irresistible love. "Are you happy?" he asked, his question revealing a vulnerability that his billions could never shield. "Terrified," she admitted honestly, her free hand moving instinctively to her stomach. "Overwhelmed. But yes," her eyes filled with tears as she smiled, incredibly completely happy. His kiss was tender, almost worshipful, a sacred promise of all that was to come. When they finally parted, his forehead resting against hers, their breath mingling in the intimate space between them, Bella felt the final pieces of their extraordinary journey clicking perfectly into place. "From an elevator kiss to parents," she marveled. "Not bad for a year's work." His laugh was warm against her skin. "The best investment I've ever made." Later that night, as they lay together in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, Carmel's hand rested protectively over her still flat stomach, his touch gentle, as if already shielding the tiny life growing within. "Do you ever think about how it all started?" he asked, voice thoughtful in the darkness. That night at the gala, when they mocked your dress? Sometimes, Bella admitted, though it feels like a lifetime ago. If they hadn't, he mused, I might never have defended you, might never have revealed you were my wife. We might still be hiding, pretending. Or we might have found another path to the same destination, she countered, covering his hand with her own. Some things are simply meant to be. His arms tightened around her, his lips finding the sensitive spot behind her ear. Philosophy, from my practical wife? Pregnancy is already changing you. She turned in his embrace, finding his mouth in the darkness. The only thing that's changed is that I finally understand what real wealth is, she whispered against his lips. And it has nothing to do with money. As their bodies joined, moving together with the practiced intimacy of lovers who knew each other's every desire, Bella silently thanked whatever twist of fate had brought them together, the elevator that had stalled, the jealous socialites who had mocked her dress, even the dangers they had faced. Every step, however difficult, had led them here, to this moment, this love, this future they would build together. The woman in the cheap dress and the billionaire CEO had found something priceless in each other's arms, a love powerful enough to transform them both, to heal old wounds, to create new life. A love that would continue to grow and evolve, challenged but never diminished by the journey ahead. As the first light of dawn filtered through the windows, Bella rested in the circle of Carmel's arms, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear, his breathing deep in satisfied slumber. Her hand drifted to her abdomen, imagining the child taking shape within, a perfect symbol of their union, defying expectations just as they had done from the very beginning. In that quiet moment between night and day, Bella Wilson finally understood the truth that had been waiting for her all along. Real love wasn't about rescue or possession, wealth or status. It was about finding the one person who saw you completely, flaws, strengths, dreams, fears, and chose you anyway every single day. She had found that person in the most unexpected place, and no designer gown in the world could ever be more valuable than the simple dress that had started their extraordinary journey together.